When it comes to the How to Train Your Dragon franchise, the only romance that most focus on is that of Astrid and Hiccup. While there are a few others sprinkled throughout the TV shows, especially the Netflix series Dragon's Race to the Edge, the Hickstrid ship is the most prominent and frankly most important one, especially in the third film. Yes, the focus is on Toothless and Hiccup, as it should be, but the relationship of Astrid and Hiccup plays a vital though quiet role. It's noted by the creators in the book The Art of How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World that the main problem in the third film is that Hiccup is relying too much on the wrong partner, Toothless, instead, for his chiefly duties, relying on his future wife and the future chiefess of Berk, Astrid. Anyway, as I mentioned, there are other romances. Concerning the movies, we see a love triangle form between Ruffnut and Snotlout and Fishlegs. By the end of the third film, after much debating, Ruffnut declares that Fishlegs has won, saying that she likes sensitive guys. So this begs the question, do Fishlegs and Ruffnut eventually get married? Hey y'all, I'm the Geek Apprentice, and yes, another How to Train Your Dragon video. The ideas just keep coming! While I was recording footage for a recent How to Train Your Dragon video, I got to that moment that I just mentioned where Ruffnut declares who's won, which is during the wedding of Astrid and Hiccup, and it kind of piqued my interest. I began to wonder if Ruffnut truly chose Fishlegs, and if Fishlegs in return reciprocated those feelings still, and that they eventually did start dating and get married. With a new How to Train Your Dragon short releasing this December, one that we pretty much know is taking place after the epilogue, so 9 years after the dragons have left, surely we're gonna get an answer to this. By the way, you can click the card to see a short video on why we know it's gonna take place after the epilogue. In the meantime, we can at least theorize. To begin answering the question at hand, we need to look into the history of these two characters and their respective love interests throughout the entire series. Let's begin with Ruffnut. Throck from Dragon's Race to the Edge. After an incident where Throck saves her life but mistakenly believes she saved his, Ruffnut gains a love interest in this warrior from Defenders of the Wing. He's studious, loyal, strong, and an interesting guy to take any interest in Ruffnut, no offense. Originally, he was just out to protect her as thanks for saving him, but later it develops into feelings of ardor for her. He even gets to the point where he comes to the edge and tries to woo her and get her to come to Defenders of the Wing, their home, so that he can marry her. Ruffnut teases and plays the part for a little bit, but ultimately has no interest in dating him, let alone marrying him. He's let down, but eventually goes on his merry way. No pun intended. Snotlout Jorgensen. This does not begin till the very last episode of Dragon's Race to the Edge, wherein both Fishlegs and Snotlout save Ruffnut at the very exact same time and begin fighting over her. And of course we see this manifest much more heavily in the second film. Snotlout does all of these things for Ruffnut, but clearly she doesn't care. She even says multiple times throughout the two TV shows what a woman repellent he is. Though she does enjoy the attention. In the third film, The Hidden World, when Ruffnut is trapped as a prisoner, she mentions how she thinks Snotlout is such a beefcake, but thinks he realizes that he's really pretty and almost too much, too vain, and so she believes any chance of pursuing a relationship with him would be too shallow. Eret, son of Eret. One of the funniest parts of the second film is when Ruffnut sees Eret for the first time and is just completely blown away and enamored with him. A very one-sided romance, to be sure. He obviously has no feelings for her except maybe disgust. By the third film, she says that Eret has lost his chance, claiming that ship has sailed, although I don't think he's too torn up about it. And of course, the fourth love interest of Ruffnut's is Fishlegs, but we'll come back to him later. Now we must look into Fishleg Ingerman's romantic history. Heather. Appearing only in the TV shows, Heather is a character that Fishlegs takes a strong interest in, and the feelings are very much reciprocated. She even says to Astrid that he's her type. She thinks he's sweet, funny, and she likes that he's smart. Heather is one of those characters that I wish could have been inserted into the films, but timing and the fact that most people don't watch the shorts in the TV shows means it would have been too complicated to give her any screen time or introduce her at all. If the feelings are mutual, why does nothing happen? Well, spoiler alert, Heather eventually decides she needs to take her rightful place as leader of her people, the Berserkers, along with her brother Dagger. Obviously, this was the writer's way of leading Heather out of being Fishlegs' love interest, seeing as the series came out after the second film, though it takes place before it. And I think they did it pretty seamlessly. And the only other romantic interest of Fishlegs is Ruffnut. So what about the history of these two specifically? Ruffnut Thorsten and Fishlegs Ingerman. This is where my research got interesting, seeing as I kind of forgot how much history they both have together. There is a scene in the Netflix series where, in an attempt for Fishlegs to demonstrate what a Viking ceremony is like, Tuffnut accidentally marries Fishlegs and Ruffnut together. It leads to a lot of comedic moments, but eventually we realize Tuffnut didn't actually have the authority to be an officiator for a Viking wedding like he thought he did, so they separate easily. Though at the end of it, there does seem to be some lingering feelings when they do eventually separate. I guess feelings could develop easily in that short amount of time that they were sort of not really married. Then, of course, we know by the end of Dragon's Race to the Edge, Fishlegs is competing with Snotlout to gain the favor of Ruffnut. Concerning the second film, just like with Snotlout, Fishlegs is trying very, very hard to win the attention of Ruffnut, saying that he grew facial hair for her, and also all those times that he's trying to help her win the dragon races by throwing her points via sheep. And the situation with the third film, Hidden World, from the point of view of Ruffnut is similar to what she says about Snotlout. As mentioned earlier, Ruffnut starts talking about all these boys during her time as Grimmel's very annoying prisoner. She mentions how Fishlegs is super sweet and how if she was starving and they were in a desperate situation, he has more meat on him and could keep her alive longer. Blech. But she also says that his constant yammering about all of his dragon knowledge is kind of annoying. However, like I said, after the Viking union ceremony of Hiccup and Astrid, Fishlegs starts crying hysterically, saying that it's so beautiful, and starts crying on Ruffnut, who at first is kind of repulsed, but then she hugs him back and says, "Alright, you win. I like sensitive guys." And this is the moment I keep going back to. Until that moment, she never chooses anyone, she just lets them fight over her because she likes the attention. Them being Snotlout and Fishlegs, not Eret. Eret's not fighting for her. But is this really enough to assume that they'll be a married couple when we get this new Snoggletog short? Well, I do have some obstacles that need to be addressed. First of all, we all know this could have just been a comedic line the writers put in, not a throwaway line necessarily, because I don't think the writers do that for this series. They're very detailed and they think of everything. Everything has meaning. What I do mean is that it's Ruffnut. She'll probably change her mind the next day, so that line doesn't really mean much when you know her character. It may not be definitive in the slightest when you know how she is. The second obstacle is Heather. Any sane person who watched the Netflix series loves the character of Heather. And most of us would probably agree that she is perfect and absolutely the best choice for Fishlegs. Speaking for me personally, I would rather Fishlegs just not marry at all than be married to Ruffnut. Unless, of course, they could figure out a way to incorporate Heather into this new short. I mean, could they? I mean, one could say that anyone who watches this short probably watched the other shorts and watches all of the extra How to Train Your Dragon content and therefore knows who Heather is, but you can't be sure of that, and neither can the writers, so they probably can't chance it. And even if the writers could figure out how to give her a quick introduction that's satisfactory, what about the other characters closely attached to Heather? You know, like Dagger and Mala, Dagger who's her actual brother and Mala who's her sister-in-law. Kind of important, and they would need to be a part of it too. So while it's conceivable that after Dagger and Mala got married and Mala probably left her island because of reasons, just click there to see, and that they went to Berserker Island, and then Heather had the chance to leave Berserker Island because Dagger and Mala are there to rule, it still would just be too complicated to introduce her and thus have to introduce everyone else. That's my take anyway. So do I think Ruffnut and Fishlegs get married and thus we will see them married in this new short? While I really hope they don't, knowing that Heather is way better for Fishlegs, I can see it being a thing in this new short. Based on how they portray these two characters in the second and third film, it's pretty conceivable. One could argue that the feelings Fishlegs had for Heather and vice versa eventually dissipated after they had to separate, and it was just nothing more than a crush. And although I think most of us would rather see Fishlegs with Heather, I could see it happening based on how the two of them, Ruffnut and Fishlegs, act in the second and third film. In fact, it'll be pretty exciting to see all of these characters 9 years later in this short, because thus far we've only seen Hiccup and Astrid. We can hear Zephyr and Nuffink actually talk. We can see what everyone's been up to and what they look like 9 years older. I mean, is Gothi even still alive? That lady's old. So much to be explored and seen in this new short, and I'm pretty darn excited, even if that means Ruffnut and Fishlegs are married, because I could see it happening, like I said, even if I don't want it to be that way. What do you think? Do you think there's the possibility that we'll see a married couple in Ruffnut and Fishlegs in this new short? Chat it up in the comment section below. And if you'd like to continue conversations such as these, maybe check out my Patreon, link in the description below to see how you can join my private Discord. We have lots of conversations about a myriad of things and it's an awesome time. But I totally understand if that's not possible. Just wanted to throw it out there. And hey, if you're new here and enjoyed the video, maybe consider subscribing so you can see all of my stuff and check out other videos of mine such as these when you get the chance. But that's all for today. Thank you for watching.